liquor in India does not have online sales or home delivery of products. And that is something that most other industries have been able to benefit from, whether that's FMCG or whether that's building materials. So, how do you see the distribution challenges in this industry compared to these other industries like the FMCG industry that you spoke about?
The biggest challenges that liquor faces in India is that India typically behaves like 30 different countries. We can't sell online because alcohol in different states there are different rules. The drinking age is different. The legal drinking age in Delhi, for instance, is 25. In some states it is 18. So online sales of alcohol is not allowed. Why? Because a single person at one point of time cannot be in possession of more than 6 bottles.
So in AlcoBev world, are there some areas where you think AI can potentially help companies?
Have we started using AI in real time? Not really. But I think in times to come, will it be used? Yes.
When it comes to driving digital transformation in the AlcoBev industry, so what would be some of the biggest barriers to digital adoption?
Mindset and compliance. The first one is mindset, that do I need it and why do I need it? And secondly, regulatory.
Welcome to the BeatRoute Podcast. In this series of CXO exchanges, we gather insights from thought leaders in business, IT, and sales transformation space to help our audience of retail industry professionals drive their sales transformation agendas. While industries like FMCG, cosmetics, and consumer durables often share transferable sales excellence stories, AlcoBev has its own unique ecosystem defined by regulation, distribution complexity, and consumer dynamics that make transformation a different kind of challenge altogether. Joining me today is someone who truly understands that world inside out, Ms. Poonam Chandel, Managing Director at NeuWorld Spirits. With over 25 years of experience in building, managing, and scaling some of India's most iconic liquor brands, Poonam has led transformation stories across every part of the AlcoBev value chain. Starting with Radico Khetan, her career spans leadership stories and leadership roles at ABD, Cobra Beer, Wave Distilleries, and some more, where she played a key role in launching and growing brands that have become household names across India. As the managing director of NeuWorld Spirits, she has led the creation and launch of brands like Royal Tribe Whiskey, Downing Street Whiskey, and Living Icon Vodka, while building a strong distribution footprint. In this session today, we are going to talk about what transformation means for this industry, how liquor companies navigate regulatory complexity, and build high performance sales systems that Poonam has built for NeuWorld Spirits. Poonam, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Nikhil, and thank you for your kind words. So it's good to be here.
So, Poonam, let's start with your journey, right? You have worked in various roles for some of the largest and established AlcoBev companies. So, what
Yes.
led you to your current role at New World, where you are building everything from scratch?
So I think it was just one chapter after the other.
Yeah.
Uh, Life is not about how you plan it. I think after I did my MBA, I did not start my journey into liquor immediately. I worked with the Bennett Coleman Group for a little while. And liquor just happened to me because I wanted to be in FMCG.
Yeah.
And, coming from Shimla, there when I didn't know anyone in Delhi, so getting an opening and finding a suitable choice was something which was not, it was not something that I could have chosen. I think it was liquor that chose me rather than me choosing liquor. And despite being a teetotaler and despite being a person who's never touched alcohol for consumption, here I am in this business for the last 25 years now. So it was just one chapter after the other that kept unfolding itself. So wherever one found a better opportunity, a more exciting opportunity, one just took it.
And what a storied career it has been, right? I before reaching out, I saw your profile, I saw your insights, and I thought, okay, this is one person that I definitely want on my podcast, because uh, who better to tell us about how this industry is evolving and how where it stands now and what seems to be the future for this industry than someone who has been, managing all these brands since 2000, right? Just the turn of the millennium, right? So
Yes, and probably I think one of the things that our industry really lacks also is that uh, not many people, I think our industry is very legacy driven.
yes,
So, it's almost like almost everybody thinks as if they know everything.
yeah, yeah,
So it's almost like I know. So I
mm,
don't want to read more. I don't want to learn more
mhm,
because I know everything about the industry. Whereas the fact of the matter is that probably ours is the most dynamic industry every year. Every state changes something, changes some dynamics, and we have to re-gear ourselves. So I think we need a lot more people who actually open their ears and eyes, read more, are a little more agile, and
yeah,
a little more outspoken. So
mm,
I think I'm probably one of those who does all of this.
yes, you are, you are. Uh, so, like, obviously, you mentioned that it's one of those industries where people talk a lot about legacy, tradition, right? Uh, and this industry is different from others in many other ways, also, right?
Yes.
So, just a very commonly known fact that liquor in India does not have online sales, right? Or home
Yes.
or home delivery of products, and that is something that most other industries have been able to benefit from, whether that's FMCG or whether that's building materials, right? So, how do you see the distribution challenges in this industry compared to these other industries like the FMCG industry that you spoke about?
See, Nikhil, the thing is that if you see how our constitution was written, our constitution, in a way, writes that India will slowly work in a manner where we ultimately move towards prohibition.
Yeah.
So, therefore, the central government never had control over alcohol as a sector. It was decided right from the very beginning that let the states have the control over their own excise policies, and the center will not interfere. So, liquor became a state subject, it is not a center subject. Now, having said that, for every state, liquor happens to be the largest source of revenue for their exchequer.
Yeah.
So, for every state, it is the most lucrative business. Now, the challenge is that on the one hand, you have to say that, oh, we are trying to make people more aware of not drinking and the hazards of drinking, and people should not be drinking. And at the same time, because you are making the maximum amount of money for your state, because you have to build your highways, you have to make your hospitals, so it is a very challenging situation for every state. Every year they have to make sure that they maximize their revenues. And every year they have to also somehow justify how they are going to control the sales of liquor. So this is almost like a story where you have a monster that you want to control, but you don't know how to control. So
Yeah.
it is that necessary evil. So I think the biggest challenges that liquor therefore faces in India is that India typically behaves like 30 different countries for us. If I'm selling in Delhi, there are different rules, there are different regulations, there are different norms, and there is a different supply chain, system that exists in Delhi. Cut to if I go to Haryana, it is completely different. If I go to Punjab, it is completely different. So the ecosystems are completely different. So if I have to have a pan-India presence, I have to understand the complexity of these ecosystems in different states. It is not like a biscuit that I can manufacture somewhere in Sonipat and then I can have the same MRP and I can sell it across the country. So, a Parle G is going to be available for ₹5 across the country.
Yeah.
And whenever I want to make Parle G, I can make Parle G. Whenever I want to dispatch my product, I can dispatch it. Wherever I want to sell it, I can sell it. It is not like that. Liquor moves in a very restricted manner. And even the terminologies that I used when we move alcohol from one state to the other are terminologies like import tax, import fees, export fees, which is used for foreign items.
Yeah.
So, but then if it is going from one state to the other, it is treated like a foreign commodity. The prices are fixed by the government.
Yeah.
So, price increases are also done by the government. So, even if my input prices are increasing and my cost of manufacturing is increasing, there is no likelihood or, very little likelihood that I will get a price increase.
Yeah.
So, it has a very peculiar kind of a ecosystem where we have to. So I think probably, it just makes us much more sharper, much more smarter, as compared to a lot of other people who have done FMCG, because we have to, keep thinking of how do we maneuver this entire system. So like in other businesses, scaling, a business is important. In our case, scaling is something that follows compliance.
Yeah.
So we first have to navigate all the compliances, then we can scale. So that is one of the biggest challenges that we have in our industry. Then we have these fragmented licensing systems in different states. So we have to understand these licensing systems. Then, so we have a lot of challenges. We have challenges like we can't sell online because technically alcohol in different states, although there are different rules, in different states, peculiarly, I don't know whether you are aware or not, the drinking age is different.
Yes.
The legal drinking age in Delhi, for instance, is 25. In some states, it is 18.
Yeah.
So online sales of alcohol is not allowed. Why? Because a single person at one point of time cannot be in possession of more than 6 bottles. Secondly, suppose somebody like a Blinkit or a Zepto were to sell alcohol online, they will need to have a licensed warehouse of their own. So, or they buy from the retail. And even if they buy from the retail, they can't buy more than 6 bottles at a time. And if they have a warehouse, then it has to be registered with the excise. So it's a very complicated mesh of things, which is not as easy to navigate as is for any other consumer product. It's got its own peculiar set of things, and therefore what happens is that people who are working in the AlcoBev industry, they tend to remain in the AlcoBev industry, and people who are not working in the AlcoBev industry, they find it very difficult initially because it's not that typical FMCG sales. So initially they find it very difficult to navigate the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Even when we are transferring people from one region to the other, it is just the market intelligence that a person can inherit. That, okay, fine, this is the data. So I can give somebody the data that, okay, fine, these were the historical numbers, this is how the competition is performing. But that does not necessarily mean that the same person will be able to navigate the same ecosystem in a different state. So, it's a very peculiar kind of I think, ecosystem. I think the biggest challenge here being the regulations that the different states have.
Yeah. So thanks. That's very thorough. You answered some of my follow-up questions because I wanted to ask you about this talent part, right? Where I always assume that talent exchange across industries would be very difficult. And we've seen that liquor people tend to remain in liquor, and outsiders find it difficult to enter. But you're saying that even between states, it becomes difficult for people, or at least the ramp up time increases.
See, because the thing is that it is, now thankfully the ecosystem is changing slightly, but there was a time when it was a very relationship driven business. We had these distributors who were extremely big. So during those times, say a decade ago, there would be very few names. So if I spoke about the state of Punjab, I knew that these are the 5-6 key distributors there. If I spoke about the state of Uttar Pradesh, there were maybe about 20-25 key people who were there. So one would always be more comfortable with a person who knew these people. Somebody working in UP, he knows the people, he knows the territory. So I would be much more comfortable that, okay, fine, this guy, he can go, he can handle the thekedar over there. The thekedars only used to have the retail shops. So at least that challenge of, him going and establishing a relationship was not there.
So, I, so if I understand it right, and you can correct me, but while in many other industries, distribution is more about logistics and scaling up fast. In this industry, it is about taking care of all the compliances, all the relationships, and legal processes, and then that is the biggest headache in distributing, right?
I would not call it a headache, but that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, part of
So
it.
how do you navigate that effectively and efficiently is the most important thing. Like, for instance, now you must be hearing about this Bira story where they're saying that a mere name change derailed their business.
Yeah.
Although I would like to, take that story with a truckload of salt, but the fact of the matter is that such things can actually escalate a very big problem. Why? Because an entity needs to be registered with excise, and then only their brands are registered, then the labels get registered, and everything is time consuming. So if the name of the entity gets changed, you actually come down to ground zero. You cannot sell a single bottle. So the name of the entity will get changed. The name of the entity will be registered with excise. Then again, they will have to re-register the brands. Then again, they will have to print the same name of the entity on the labels and re-register the labels. So this process at times can take, in different states, between 3 to 6 months. So
Yeah.
it can actually derail, so I think it is just maneuvering it really well, being very, very mindful of what decisions you are taking at that point of time. And, although we are in this business, I've been in this business for 25 years, but I can tell you that there are times that we also get completely snowballed and we are like, what to do now? Or how do we navigate this? So,
Oh.
you need that foresight that, okay, fine, this is the system. This is how we can maneuver the system. I will not use the word manipulate the system, but this is how we can maneuver it
Yeah.
more efficiently. So that is the thing.
So that's distribution. Let's say you have got all the compliances in place. You enter a state. You figured out how we are going to distribute here. Once you have got all of that distribution uh, part of the puzzle in place, what becomes important for you in driving sales? Uh, what's what are some key components of driving sales execution after securing distribution?
So see, the liquor business is again a very, we've got a wide range of portfolio. And there are products that sell for a very low price also, and there are products that sell at very high prices also. So the sales dynamics for both are very different. For a brand that is garnering huge volumes, a great width of distribution, rural presence is also important. But a brand which is really upmarket and very premium will only be, it will require to be very metrocentric. So one has to be very, very kind of mindful that which are the brands which will require a greater online on trade presence, and which are the brands which will require a bigger off trade presence. So on trade for AlcoBev or any industry, or at least for AlcoBev for us, it is one of our biggest marketing tools also. So if I am, if I have to easily show my product to somebody, I would make sure that all the bars stock me. And when we go to the bars, so since they know that it is necessary for us to go to them, they do not, just happily say that, okay, fine, we are welcoming you here. We end up kind of negotiating with them on a cost as to how they will make my brand a pouring brand, or they will make my brand be there on the shelf. So we pay for that. So it's a good marketing tool, but it has to be very judiciously used. So whether it's volume brands or it is value brands, so depending on that is the second step that we need to very, very carefully be, taking care of and be mindful of.
As I understand, not all brands within a company's portfolio might be suitable for on trade kind of a
Yeah.
distribution. So, what about uh, the brands which are not suitable for on trade? So, what are some initiatives that companies take to drive their sales?
So the brands which are not suitable for on trade,
Yeah.
I think the key thing is to make sure that the width of distribution in the urban and the rural markets is good. And once your brand reaches the shelf, then you have to make sure that, see, the key is your brand.
Yeah.
Your brand has to be outstanding, whether it has to deliver on taste, it has to deliver on what the consumers understand, it has to deliver on packaging. And once it reaches the shelf, I think one of the most important thing is that you have to make sure that there is that pull that gets generated. The consumer starts liking your product and he tries it. I think trials are very important. And while doing so, we have to also make sure that my distributors are well managed, my retailers are well managed. So they also need to be equally invested in the brand so that they can make sure that I am available on the shelf, and I am, the distributors, salesman, and the retailer salesman. They play a very key role in making sure that my brand gets pushed. So that is very, very important for the volume drive. Right.
So, the next segment of topics that I want to talk about is, let's say you got all of this in place. You got people on ground who are visiting on trade customers, people who are visiting off trade outlets. Uh, Traditionally, in most industries, these were all done manually. There was not a lot of tech that was in place to digitize all of these processes. What is the state of tech enablement for the liquor industry? Because others have been very fast, very early adopters like FMCG and consumer goods. What's the current state of liquor industry in terms of tech enablement, and what kind of big changes have you seen on that front?
So I think, again, if I were to talk about, say, 10 to 15 years ago, I think there was a huge amount of reluctance in all of us also that, technology is not something that will help us. And I think that kind of reluctance probably would have been there in the other industries also, because in our industry, it was even more because of the regulatory frameworks. And, uh, the team also somewhere felt that, oh, we know our distribution touch points very well, so why this technology, and why is it being used? But I think in the last 4 to 5 years, I have seen that there's a huge change that has happened. Although the initial steps were difficult, because even when we approached the tech companies, for them, I mean, I can personally tell you that, we've had to sit down with the tech teams multiple times and literally tutor them through each and every market. So it is not very easy that, if I have to do a go-to-market strategy, that, okay, fine, you do a retail mapping and that's how it is going to work. So I think, it takes the same amount of effort from a technology company as much as it takes from us to be able to make them understand. But if you ask me today, I think almost all the big or small companies, they are relatively tech enabled, and they are adopting technology in some form or the other. Whether it is the back end where we are tracking the inventories, or where we are tracking the movement of uh, goods, whether it is finished goods or whether it is raw materials, or it is, the movement of the goods from the warehouses from one state to the other. So how that is happening, and even further as to how how the boys. So we are doing retail mappings and those kind of things. I think it's been an interesting journey, and initially we all of us who thought that this was not something that important, I think we are now in some place where we are actually believing that no, this is something that is required, and almost every company is adopting to this technology kind of upgradations in all kind of manners.
So
Even the
does
trade marketing, for that matter, I think trade, so we are also tracking results
hmm,
that if one is doing some kind of a trade marketing campaign, so then uh, tracking the results of how a trade marketing activity has performed,
hmm,
which are the retails where the trade marketing activity is performing better, and how well is the acceptance, or if there is a point of sale material which is being used, then how well it is being used, is it making any sense or not. I think there is a lot of movement in that direction.
thanks. So when it comes to driving digital transformation at an organization, whether that's the current one where you have built everything from the early days, or any organization in the AlcoBev industry. So, what would be some of the biggest barriers to digital adoption? Would it be mostly because of this compliance? Would it?
Mindset, only two:
Uh,
mindset and compliance.
okay, I wanted to ask about this another aspect, that is different states has different process, right? So, does mapping the process also becomes very difficult for
Yes,
technology
yes,
partners?
yes. So that's what I said. The
Yeah.
first one is mindset,
Hmm.
that do I need it,
Yeah.
and why do I need it. So, for instance, in a state like Delhi, which is completely corporation, all the shops are owned by corporations.
Hmm.
My team comes and tells me, "Ma'am, everything is owned by the government, and everything is going fine." So that is the mindset problem.
Yeah.
So, and different states have, for instance, in Delhi, you can't have any merchandise.
Yeah.
There is no advertising which is allowed at the point of sale. So, mm, one is the mindset and changing that mindset. And secondly, regulatory. So, whichever tech company you work with, you have to make them understand these challenges, that when they are devising these tech platforms for liquor companies, they cannot be made in a manner which is similar to any other FMCG. They will have to be patient with us. They will have to sit down, understand each and every market, technicalities of each and every market, and do the mapping accordingly. So, because what happens is, once you start using a technology, then you start taking, hoping that you'll get a lot of results out of the technology. When you start getting results out of technology, then it starts uh, building accountability also. Things start getting accountable, then it also starts reflecting in a manner where you are doing the performance appraisal of people. Now, if the technology is not, so you can't have the same yardstick, you can't have the same benchmark for every state, because if you do that, then you will probably be undermining somebody's performance and overestimating somebody's performance just because you use the same technology. So, one has to understand the peculiarities of the market and then devise uh, the technology accordingly.
That makes sense to me perfectly. So one thing that is on everyone's mind across all the industries that I talk to is AI, right? In consumer world, people are using Chat GPT and Gemini like systems. In business world and enterprise world, are people increasingly either trialing or at least looking at what kind of AI solutions are out there or how AI can impact our industry or our organization. So in AlcoBev world, uh, I'm not asking you for specific solutions, but I'm trying to understand, are there some areas where you think that, okay, this is one part where AI can potentially help companies?
See, as of now, if you seriously ask me,
Yeah, yeah.
and have we started using AI
Hmm.
in real time? Not really. But I think in times to come, will it be used? Yes. As of now, the use is very, very limited. And that use is, I mean, we can't even say that we are directly using AI. I think it is just to devise social media campaigns and stuff like that, which is, I think, which is just a very, very basic and a very, that's something that my son does all the time.
Okay.
So I think that's a very basic thing, but I think in times to come,
Hmm.
Because probably a year ago, I would have looked at AI in a very kind of a negative kind of a mind space. But once I actually started using it a little bit, I think if you have good data, which is something which is very, very important. I think data is integral to AI, because AI will only throw up something to you if you are able to feed it with good data.
Yeah.
It cannot work on hypothesis, but I think if you are able to throw up good data and use I think it will be of great help, whether it is for mapping advertising campaigns, or maybe, I'm really thinking, but maybe outlet mapping is something that one can think of doing, or things like doing a consumer sentiment mapping.
Yeah.
So I think it it will definitely in times to come, it is going to be very, very helpful, because it can actually give you an experiential feedback. uh, the only thing is that, like I again said, that it needs that amount of good data that gets fed into it. And I think hopefully in times to come, AI will be potentially something that even the AlcoBev companies will start using.
Thanks for your insight, Poonam. So finally, if I know you are very vocal on LinkedIn and you share a lot of deep insights. If you were advising someone who's currently driving business transformation initiative at a large AlcoBev enterprise, what would be your primary advice to them on how they should build their transformation agenda, or how they should shape an organization which is ready for the realities of 2026 and beyond?
See, I think if I have to sum up, I would say that agility is key.
Agility. Hmm.
And, working to a business plan which is realistic,
Hmm.
and one has to keep their ears and eyes open and not live in that. There are times when we start dreaming too much and we start ignoring reality. So I think rather than ring fencing, it is always best to get acquainted to reality, get acquainted to what is happening, get acquainted to what are the kind of results that are showing up, and respond very, very quickly, because the ecosystems are changing very fast.
Yeah.
So I think, to be able to transform your mindset, to be able to have that kind of a flexible mindset where you understand that, okay, fine, relationships are definitely very important, and in AlcoBev, relationships are very important, but we have to make sure that there is a very happy marriage between standard operating procedures which are set up
Hmm.
and relationships. So we can't say that everything is going to be relationship driven. There have to be proper SOPs and there have to be relationships. For that, good amount of robust data that we get from the market, that is going to be very, very important. I think people should not close their eyes and just say that no, I know. So you have to be quick and fleet footed. I think that is something that I would really stress on. One of the key things that I would like to say here is that, you must invest in good people, and good people who are good at strategy, good people who are good at processes, and good people who are good at adapting themselves to new ecosystems, rather than people with that kind of a mindset which is very, very rigid, which is very difficult to change. I think that is something which should not be there. So if I were to think in the way I used to think 15 years back,
Hmm.
although I was much younger, but then probably my hypotheses were much older. So, I think now it is time to learn every day, build a new hypothesis, and then adopt that hypothesis if you think that it's workable, because there is a lot of data which is available today. There's a lot of inputs, there's a lot of information which is available today. So I think, making good use of that to understand what to do, and more importantly, what not to do. So, whereas there will be many people who can tell people how to do a business, I think there are very few people who will be there to tell you how not to do a business. And if you have so much of data that is available, then where you can understand how to do business, I think you must also learn how not to do business. I think, again, embracing digital transformation as an agenda, and staying very, very authentic, staying absolutely consistent is something that I think would be the key and would differentiate between leaders and laggers, according to me. I think mm, I think that's about it that I would like to say.
That was a perfect insight to uh, end this conversation, because that's a very useful advice, not only for AlcoBev industry professional, but for all other industry professionals as well.
Exactly.
So thanks for that, Poonam. It has been such a wonderful conversation, and for me, it has been really valuable getting first-hand insights from someone like you who has lived through all these changes in the industry. Uh, Thanks for joining us, Poonam.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. It was a pleasure.